Welcome to the Branded Impact Podcast. On this show, we go beyond surface level branding, honest conversations with industry leaders, behind the scenes of aligned brand building, and actionable insights to help you elevate your presence. I'm your host, Jo Espejo, aka Jo. Hit subscribe and join me each week for the Branded Impact Podcast. You can grow your brand, but can your leadership keep up? Most women entrepreneurs overlook the thing that impacts retention, culture, and revenue the most. Welcome back to the Branded Impact Podcast. Today, I am talking with Wendy Sellers, the HR lady. She is a real, reliable, realistic voice in HR who helps leaders build teams that actually stay. Companies that invest in inclusive leadership training are 4.2 times more likely to outperform financially. Let's talk about why training and mentoring are actually what move the needle. Wendy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Can we start with when did it click for you that training and mentoring were the true unlocks for leadership?
For me, that I'm a person who I grew up in an area that it wasn't highly educated. I decided to go all the way and get 2 master's degrees, right? The second master's degree, I went back to get in human resources because I realized I did need more training. Then even with all those formal education, you still need the mentoring because you need the mentoring on like, how does this culture work? How do I fit in with the mission, vision, and values of that company and that culture? I would say early in my HR career, when I thought I was like, I'm so educated, I have all these degrees and certifications and licenses, and I could do everything, anything I want. I need help. I don't understand this little tiny thing in the company handbook that I wrote. It's really important to just, for us as experienced people, to stop for a hot minute, stop judging people. It could take a 20-minute mentoring session, or it could be a formal 6-month program. Just starting to get mentorship. Mine was informal, even though it was from a formal person above me on the org chart, but it was very informal. But it helped me so much. Just really figure out what kind of company am I in and where do I fit?
There's a very big difference because I went to school, I got my degree, I got a master's. Once you start actually applying what you're trying to learn, it's like, yes, I've got it. In a school setting, in a classroom setting, or in a training session, it's like, yes, that all makes sense. And then you go to apply it and it's not all perfectly curated in this little box to fit that exact scenario that we were taught. And the mentoring piece, what's blowing my mind is the more that I get involved, I do masterminds. I am consistently working on elevating my own knowledge and what I'm doing because you need that upper hand, somebody giving you a different perspective
Right.
and working with someone who's already been there, done that, and helping you shorten that learning curve. The more that I start to stay attuned to that, I start to realize even the successful, very great people, if you start listening to their stories, they're worked with a mentor. Or I
Yeah.
worked with this, or I did a mastermind, and that's
Yep.
how I jumped from here to here. Mentorship is key across all the boards. We just tend to forget it.
Especially in this country, those formal degrees or licenses or certifications, I'm not knocking them. Like I said, I have 3 degrees and every certification there's known to man, but we need that human interaction, that HR part that we have these called humans. It's not just about what's in our brain. We also have emotions and we need to have empathy and we need to learn how to be like, oh, this person that's coming in my office right now is crying and I should probably not rip them a new one right now. Maybe I should talk about something else. And that's where the mentoring comes in, where you can say, I still can hold this person accountable for not being the best employee or acting like a fool, but not right now, because now is not the time. They're coming in talking about a death in the family or an illness or something like that. I just think you learn that by a really great mentor or unfortunately getting egg on your face and going, well, I never want to have to deal with that again,
I
right?
think sometimes too, the other shift that I'm seeing, and especially in my space where we have a lot of entrepreneur, is you think that you can do everything yourself. And there's that struggle between now that I know I need to bring someone on or I want to train, it's like, what is the best way? I don't know if you find this too, but a lot of times the biggest holdback is one, we don't think anyone else can do it the way that we can. Or
Yep.
really, it's just you don't really know how to train. You sit down to look at the SOPs or the standard operating procedures. A lot of us as entrepreneurs don't even do that. We just have a way
Yep.
that we like to do things. It's been trial and error. We got egg on our face. We fell flat on our face. We got up, we did it again. Then you go to train someone and you're like, you just kind of do it. Now I have to take that step back and actually take some time. This is the key for mentorship too. You have to have the time and the patience to be able to train someone and not just train them how you like to be trained, train them on how they like to be trained.
which means you might not be the best trainer for them. You may need to
Interesting.
get somebody else to train that person because they have a different learning style and maybe you don't have any patience or completely different personality traits or personality styles, even in the generational aspect too. You just may not be the trainer or the mentor for that person. I wanted to just quickly mention some statistics related to mentors and mentees. Retention rates for mentees, so those people that have been mentored internally, are 72%. How we are all struggling to attract and retain employees, whether you have 2 employees or you have 2,000 employees, we want to retain them. So if you're mentoring them, hopefully formally ish, you're going to have a 72% retention rate. For the mentors, the people that you're teaching how to be a mentor and then you're assigning them to be a mentor, they have a retention rate of 69%. That is amazing. You're asking people to give back to the internal organization and then they still stay. You form these relationships when people are offered another job. Maybe they're not even looking for it, but they're like, hey, come work for me. I see you on LinkedIn. They say, no, I have these really great relationships at my company because I am a mentor or I was a mentee. I'm going to stay there and stick it out a little bit longer.
You're forming those relationships, and it's like that buy-in as far as wanting to be able to give back. That's when it comes into those core values. Are you really tied in? Do you feel like you're just punching a clock? Are you just another number? Or are you valued and really feel like you're contributing to the company? We can all do our jobs, but then I guess this is a part that I know for me when I've been both the mentee and the mentor, I take a lot of stock in I've really helped and I really feel like I can contribute. It's more than just a paycheck and it's more than just a job at
Right.
that point. When you decided to do this business, what are some of the first things that you did to really establish your own brand? And then what have you done as you've evolved to kind of keep that going?
So when I opened the HR Ladies, my third business, all HR consulting, I started on my own. Then I had some business partners, and then I want to go back to my own. And I was like, everybody always just calls me the HR lady. I wonder if anybody out there has that brand. Some people had it like here and there on their profile. I was like, I'm going to get the trademark. That way nobody else can have it. I got 2 trademarks on it. And when people ask me what my title is now, I'm just like the HR lady. It's pretty easy to figure out because that's what everybody has always called me. When I started in my HR career, I kind of landed in HR. Wasn't really like, just put me in HR. You got to be a little crazy to go into HR on your own, right? We didn't have titles at that company. It was a small company that grew and grew and grew and grew into an international firm. I was just referred to as the HR ladies. I did a lot of SEO, like paid SEO, search engine optimization, for anybody that doesn't know what SEO is. When you're searching on Google and going, find me the HR lady, Wendy Sellers will come up. A lot of things on leadership training, management training, and then HR consulting. It's a lot. It is so time consuming to do branding.
Mhm.
I was thinking about it this morning and I'm like, I feel like sometimes half my job is still social media, blogs, branding, tags, responding to media requests. If you don't do it, you got to pay somebody else to do it, which is fine. Either way, it's time consuming and expensive, but it's totally worth it because if you're on the first page of Google or some other internet search when somebody is looking for, in my case, an HR consultant, leadership training, I do a lot of conference speaking. It makes it a lot easier for me to make money and pay some bills.
Great. If you're coming up in the searches, I think it's very clever. I love that it
Thank
came
you.
out of like what you were being called, because I think that's how branding by Jo came about too. I used to just use my name. Then I
Mhm.
started to morph into branding. When I finally niched down, I think I was at an event and somebody was like, if you haven't had your branding done, you need to make sure you connect with Jo,
Yeah.
branding with Jo. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. That establishes what I do in my name. And this is where the SEO piece comes in too. If your name is what people are Googling, it helps because that's one more
Yes.
touch point. It's like you said, it's not a one and done. You didn't
Nope.
just register your name, get your website. That's it. My branding is done. No, branding is a consistent effort. Like you have to put in. It is.
Time consuming, very time consuming, but it's worth it because, like you just said, somebody else usually brands us. Like, unless it's a negative terminology they're using, go with it because if that's what everybody's referring to you as, just go with it or make it a tagline or something like that if you can't change your entire company name.
You mentioned it's time consuming. Creating content is time consuming. We spend a lot of time thinking about how we want our messaging to come across. Listen to what people are saying already And then use that in your messaging. If there's
Yeah.
something, call the HR lady. For you to go out and try to come up with some convoluted name of what you're going to call yourself doesn't make any sense. Just going with what people were already saying is perfect. I have another one. It's a tagline I use, or a way I introduce myself now. I'll say I'm a brand amplifier. It was a client that said that
Mhm.
to me in an introduction to somebody else. This is Jo. She's our brand amplifier. Like, that is phenomenal. I'm going to use that. That was out of my client's words. I don't know if I could have come up with something so creative. I was like, I like amplify, but sometimes we make our job that much more difficult. Like to recommend, you talked about Google and SEO and all these pieces. One of the best ways that you can do that is through reviews, because
Mhm.
Google loves to hear from the people that you're actually working with, not just what we're putting out there, but
Right.
people. When you ask people to do a Google review, that's going to help your SEO. Look at the words that they're using to describe you in the review, and then use those words in the content that you're creating, whether that be a
Right.
blog post or LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever, but use the words of your clients, because that's what other people are going to resonate with.
That's good advice. Use the words of your fan club. Then you can grow your fan club even bigger.
Using words, it's like we get to be a little creative, and especially in the branding world, I want to be really cutesy and like creative, and I want it to stick and I want it to pop. And I say it and people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I spent so much time trying to create this fun new package name or whatever. I'm like, guys, sometimes we just have to keep it really simple. Like, getting too creative sometimes can make it very convoluted. One of the questions that I think comes up to mind with me when I start to think about growing my team, how do I get my brand and my values and all the things to carry through? What are some recommendations as far as, if you're thinking about bringing someone on, what are some things that they should have in place? Once they do, what are some of the key things that you find in that mentorship piece that can really make a difference between a team member really understanding your brand and your core values?
So I'm going to back it up a little bit to the interviewing process, even before the interviewing process, the job posting process. I truly believe that most companies are not using job descriptions in the way that they should be used. They're like, oh, here's a list of duties, and then they never look at them again, right? They hire somebody, they maybe look at them once a year during those annual performance reviews. I tell all of my clients, I want your company values in the job description. So here's who you report to, here's your title, here's the list of essential duties, non-essential duties if you have a disability as well, all the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are required. Here are also our company values, which are AKA expected behaviors in the workplace. They're usually words like respect and transparency and professionalism, or they might be entire sentences. If you have them in your job description, then that job description is going to be created into a job ad. That job ad is going to be created into a list of interview questions. I just put it all in an Excel sheet and make it into a scorecard. I use that same exact interviewing for the reviews too. We're going to judge somebody in the beginning by asking them, here's all the knowledge, skills, and abilities. Can you do these duties? Do you understand what these behaviors mean? Explain to me a time when you did, blah, blah, blah. You just keep using that over and over again, updated, of course, if anything changes in the job description. Your will get used to kind of like, all right, we're going to have once a year reviews. No, please do more than that. Please do at least like 4 feedback sessions. They don't have to be called reviews, but who the heck wants to wait 364 days to get another feedback from their manager, right? A performance of behavior in one document, you create it into a scorecard and you use it for every piece of feedback. Internal interview, if you're looking for a step up, it's going to be a lot easier for the mentors to scratch their head and go, what am I supposed to talk to these people about? Let's look at their job description, or let's look at the company values. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. I think honestly, it's just being clear and
Yeah,
being,
it's crystal clear.
you're basically putting out a roadmap, and
Yep.
it gives you words too. This is what I like. That was phenomenal, because I know for me, sometimes when I'm interviewing somebody, a lot of it comes down to like this gut check. Do I feel like you and I align? Do I like your personality? I've always said, I was in operations management for 16 years, and every time I recruited, I will hire for personality over aptitude any day, because you can train some skills. Personality, that's, you got it or you don't. That's just going to be the thing. There's some positions where, especially like in a dental office, if you are a very serious, non-friendly person, putting you at the front desk position that has to greet every single person that comes in the door, that's going to be a challenge all the way around. It's a challenge for the
Yeah.
person sitting there. It's going to be a challenge for all of our patients. We're going to be like, but why aren't you bubbly and saying hello? It's like, well, that's not my personality.
It really is. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I literally just came back from the dentist like 20 minutes ago before this session here. It is. I sit there and I'm like, I like my dentist. I like the people in there. I love that you're talking about personalities. I wrote 2 books. My one book is Suck It Up, Buttercup: Be a Leader People Will Follow. I talk about personality styles in there a lot. I'm trained on a DISC, which is like a derivative of Myers-Briggs. I truly believe that most people, their personalities lead them to a career. You could also have any personality style and go in any career that you want. Is it going to be a little bit more difficult for you? Probably. That's why most of us naturally go into one career that requires a personality like you were just mentioning. There's also like personality traits, extrovert, introvert, ambivert. I write about that in my other book. When I first did the DISC training for personality assessment before I got certified, I just went to like a webinar. Back then it was in person. And I was like, my goodness, I'm the problem. It's me. I'm like, it's my personality. I'm dominant. I'm direct. I'm bossy. You get people to do what you want them to do, Wendy, but doesn't mean they're willing to do it. They have to because you're their boss. I grabbed that mirror and was like, you need to make some changes, not change your personality. There's nothing wrong with it. I needed to learn how to adjust during certain conversations with this person over here, to try to take a step back and say, you're not supposed to be the one in control in this meeting, Wendy. It completely changed my life when I first did that training. I use it to change other people's lives now too, and help people zip it when necessary or speak up when necessary. They may need to role play it a little bit. And that's where mentors could come in as well.
I did the disc as well a long time ago. I
Okay.
actually got to go to North Carolina and studied under like the Bell Leadership Program and all
Oh,
that stuff.
nice.
And it was eye-opening, the difference. And even now for me, like I tend to be a DI. So I like to be very direct. And then I'm also kind of social, but in the workspace, I tend to fall into that like very direct world. When I work with a lot of S's who are like very go with the flow, they don't like change, they like stability, they like the culture, they do own that. I can't even tell you how many emails I've started to write. I'm speaking to so and so who's an S. So let me back up and start with, "Hi, how are you today? How was your end?" Okay, let's dive into what's an update on this thing or whatnot the other. Versus my personalities that were very direct. I didn't have to do the "Hi, how are you?" I could just be like, "Hey, give me an update on XYZ."
Literally did it this morning before my dentist appointment. I was writing a podcast agenda because I have a podcast too. You know what? I don't know this guest. I better start with that. Hey, how you doing? Just so you know, the information's below. Where I had another agenda I was writing. I was like, oh, they know me. Hey, here it is, CFI.
As I'm thinking about this, I'm going, man, I didn't really apply this into when I've been hiring with words, right? I don't think I really realized that I was doing it because it's one of those things that's been so ingrained with me over time. This is one of the recommendations, and I'm thinking that we can apply it to those who maybe are in that more solopreneur space. Having the smaller teams. If you've got the bigger teams, this is a phenomenal tool. If you've never heard of it, reach out to Wendy because it really is game changing for management to be able to know what personality styles not only that they have, but the employees. I feel like in the smaller spaces, though, this is an excellent opportunity for you to evaluate everything that you do in your day to day, then really taking ownership of what are the things that you like to do and what are the things that when those come up on your to-do list, you find any excuse possible to shift it over or like your life. That's where you start outsourcing. Any of those
Yeah.
like task items that you're like, I hate life when I have to get to do this because I wanted to go out on my own, but I didn't realize that meant that I was going to have to be the accountant and all the things. That's
Yep.
my recommendation for when you're thinking about bringing on a team member. I always say, where is your zone of genius and where do you thrive? Anything that does not bring you joy needs to make it to your top of the list of who am I going to hire and
Yeah,
figure out
exactly.
of that, like what's a priority. You're not always going to find somebody who fits all of the boxes. Start with the ones that are the most pressing. Then you work your way through. For me, I'm like, oh my gosh, but actually putting a label to that, Wendy, I totally have forgotten all about that, but I absolutely love it.
For those that are listening, if you don't know what DISC is, the DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. The DI are very active and fast paced, and the CS are much more moderate pace and methodical. The D and C, they're like in a big circle, are much more fact based, where the I and the S are much more feeling based as a priority. I don't want you to ever judge somebody and say, oh, well, they're I, they have to be in sales. They probably naturally will go that way, but that doesn't mean they have to. It just may be a little bit more difficult for them to overcome. That's where a mentor comes in too, where they can say, regardless of my personality style, but regardless of my personality trait, I'm new at this role or I need help with this role and I'm embarrassed about asking for help, and a mentor can really help. I know some people that are listening might be saying, well, I don't want to take my valuable employees offline of working on projects or products to mentor somebody else. Remember what I said in the beginning is the mentors tend to stay longer as well. It's a retention tool. It's an employee engagement tool. Now it's going to cost your company less money in the end. When it's happening, you're probably going, oh my goodness, why am I having them do mentoring? I'd rather them have them do work product. It's like you're building into the long-term engagement and retention of your
I
employees.
think even on the front end with training, was just having this conversation with a company that I'm doing consulting for. When you bring on a new hire, if you could take the time to train in the beginning, it is more painful, especially when you're a smaller business that you feel every position like not having full productivity, but you drag out the pain longer
Yep.
because if they're not trained and if they're not, and then the turnover cost.
Yep.
I think people underestimate how costly it is to have to replace somebody.
Since the pandemic, it's more costly than ever just to put an ad out.
Yeah.
Never mind to now pay somebody on staff or an external recruiting firm to say, you got to go through these 100 resumes that you get. It's very, very time consuming and it's very expensive because time is money, whether it's internal or external recruiting.
So much of it can go into place. And this is where I'm like, I love also outsourcing some of these pieces because there's so much that can go into it. If you can hire the right person on the front end, then even too, like if you're not really sure what that looks like, kind of doing a recheck for yourself. What are those values? What do you want your company to be known for? Can you find employees who align or fit or complement? For me, I really need someone in my life who is on my team that's helping keep me a little bit more grounded and like, we still need to do XYZ because I'm a very big idea. I like to move fast. Let's get it done. I need someone who's like, okay, cool. I'm going to make sure though that between A and Z, we hit the steps that we
Hit
need
the
to
rest
get
of the
there.
letters.
Can we make it through the steps? I'm very high level. I'm like, let's get it. I've got this big idea, big pictures. I'm very direct. And I joke because I'm like, I want to know enough to understand, but I don't want all the details. I need the very detail oriented person. And can I be? You spoke to this earlier. Can you be a little bit of every piece of it? Absolutely. Because there
Yeah.
are days and times when, even though I'm a DI, and that means I like direct and I like fast paced and I'm very like, high energy, there
Mhm.
are still times when I want all the details. Then there's a
Yeah.
lot of times when you start to hit all me with all the details, I'm like, okay, you lost me.
If I have to do some work that's like really detail oriented, like accounting, like you just said, even though I have an accountant, I have to do it first thing in the morning before my energy level has gone through the roof. I'm like, nope, can't concentrate on that now. I can't even have my coffee yet. Like, no, I've got to do this. I've got to sit still and think. If I can't do it, then I need to outsource it because I'm not capable of doing this.
Well, and knowing, taking a pulse for like, what do you keep pushing off? I know for me with the branding, that's something that I find a lot of companies push off first because it's expensive. It does,
Yep.
whether you take that expense as it takes your time, because our time has a value to it as well. If you're spending all of this time creating your own content, doing those pieces, you have to decide, is that where you really should be spending your time? If you do have the time, fantastic. When you find that that's something that you're putting off, then now it's gone from 1 week to 2 weeks to I haven't posted consistently or I haven't done anything, then where am I dropping in all of the rankings? If I don't feel like I have something nailed, then something new comes out. Like it used to just be SEO and OpenAI and all those things are making summaries. You also have to not just be coming up in SEO, you have to be coming up in the artificial intelligence searches. And so life is a fun and constant, never improving game, a constantly improving game of figuring out what's next and what do you do best. I like to recommend, as always, stick with your zone of genius. I want to circle back to something you said earlier. You may not be the best person to train.
You might be the smartest person, you might be the owner of the company, but you may not be the best person to train. Even me, I mean, my career is training. I do conference speaking, I do online training all day, every day. I have an LMS system, learning management system. But for a certain person, I may not be the right person because I talk too fast. I'm too direct. Maybe I don't have patience for that person. So I don't have patience for a whole lot of people. That's a personality style. I know even when I'm dealing with somebody that I'm mentoring by choice, there's some times that I'm like, I have to speak with him or her or them at a certain time of the day so that our personalities align. Or it can't be on a Monday, for example, because that's when everything goes wrong in HR, right? It's super important to just really be realistic and say, you know what, I'm not the right person for the job of this person. Maybe I intimidate that person. They're the whole time so nervous that they're not even listening, and I need to get somebody else involved. We have to grab that mirror, like I said earlier, to go, you know what, maybe I'm part of the problem here. So let me be part of the solution, back out of this situation and get somebody else involved. Or maybe I need a mentor on how to mentor somebody else. Maybe I need coaching and training, regardless of who you are, on how to deal with that specific type of person.
Just being open to the fact that like there could be or there should be different approaches for different people. For me, in my experience, I could train somebody, but there's been seasons in my life where I'm bringing someone on where I just know my bandwidth is not there. I've identified opportunities for them to get additional training. That doesn't always look like another person per se. I know when I brought my virtual assistant on, I wanted her to take over some tasks on social media. Like, okay, I want help creating some content. I'm going to give you the pillars. I've got the strategy. I know exactly what I want it to look like. Then I wasn't able to give her additional tools. I actually had found some courses that I was like, okay, This is a course that you can take. This is someone who has taken the time and is an expert in the subject matter. Now, I paid for the course and I just asked, and I paid for her to take the course. Here you go. Here's access. Getting help and getting mentoring can look like different versions depending on where you are and what phase you are. Now, once you get to the point that you've got employees, plural, and then you can identify, I like to say, just because someone is really good at their job doesn't mean that they're going to be a good trainer. You have to identify
Right.
people within your organization that are not only good at their job, but can also train and then
Right.
give them that ability. Honestly, you're right. They love it. When you ask people and they're confident and they have that right personality, they really do enjoy giving back.
Your team as a whole, again, whether you have 2 employees or 2,000 employees, you could have people over here that are, hey, I don't want to do the training, but I'll document the entire standard operating procedures. I'll create checklists. Yeah, that's my jam, no problem. Then somebody else has to actually train on it. If somebody handed that to me, I'd be like, oh, thank you so much, because I did not want to document any of that stuff. Now I'll just QC it, look at it, and then I'll start doing the training. If I have any questions, we'll bring you in as an expert, and then you could come in for 15 minutes and go away.
That's a great tip. It's really leveraging the people that you have. Sometimes that's really, you just have to take a step back and then identify those pieces. Wendy, I appreciate all of your insight. If you had one thing that you could give to somebody who is looking to expand and they are considering growing a team, where's the first place that you recommend starting?
There's so many different places, and I guess it just depends on what you're trying to do. But I just literally thought about this. A place that I got a lot of my business resources is the Small Business Administration and SCORE, SCORE, that is across the country, and it's completely free. It's usually people like me and you going there volunteering and mentoring, and it helps with our brand too while we're doing that. Even if you do have to pay, I would go to community centers, community networking. There's so many tools and opportunities out there, and people that really care about their community, and therefore they're going to help you succeed. We don't have to pay for everything, but time still is money. Either way, you're going to have to invest in a lot of that. Other than that, just follow me on LinkedIn. I'm giving away stuff all the time because I just want this world to be a good place for everybody, and to make it a lot easier for people to live and have some joy.
Well, thank you. Well, Wendy, where can they find you on LinkedIn?
Yeah. LinkedIn, Wendy Sellers, the HR lady. And then if you go to my website, thehrlady.com, I have a downloads tab. You'll get sent to a Google Drive with a ton of freebies in there. I mean, a ton. I can't help myself. And then you'll get automatically enrolled in my monthly newsletter that gives you even more information. But folks, we're all in this world together. Let's make it a better place by helping each other out.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insight. If you have been listening to this episode and you have found anything helpful or know of somebody who could, please share. And as always, continue to be out there and make your branded impact. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Branded Impact Podcast. If today's episode sparked something in you, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who's ready to unlock their rebrand era. And if you're ready for a brand that's rooted in authenticity and built for impact, one that truly reflects your story, your energy, and your evolution, let's connect. Head to brandingbyjo.com or DM me on Instagram at brandingbyjo. Thanks for hanging out. Now get out there, show up with purpose, and make your branded impact. I'll see you next week.